In 3, 2, 1, roll the footage. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Severino, your host. And yes, everybody's talking about AI and it will amplify us. And we are now 10x something, 10x developer, 10x consultant, the 10x researcher. But can we really trust each other? Can I trust you that your hundreds of robots do a good thing, that the intention is a positive intention? And how can we create trust in ourselves, in our brand, in our team? How can we make sure we attract the right people and we create wow experiences? How can we make sure that we create experiences that actually make people smile more and spark that creativity that we want to spark? Welcome, everybody. Robert Richman to explore this with us.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Tell us, what are you currently creating?
Oh, wow. I'm creating a course called the Culture Operating System. I've recently been a guest professor at Harvard University teaching about culture there. And I'm creating a course around that. And, I came out of Zappos.com, where we're really well known for surprising and delighting customers and employees alike. And that's been a theme for my life, too. And I'm creating a site all about the art and science of surprise and delight.
So when you teach culture at Harvard, what are the questions that you get?
Oh, it's really interesting. I do kind of a Socratic process where, to me, what all this work is about, and we can talk really about what you were talking about there with the new world of AI and trust and how it's working. My belief with all this is, if you can't really get it to something simple, then you don't really understand it. The longer it takes to explain something, the less understanding you really have of a situation. And I think simplicity is really at the core of business. The example I like to use is to take a business like FedEx. Federal Express, right? Shipping company, or UPS. It must be the most complex business model, logistics, all that. And yet my grandmother can understand it. It takes your package from your house to somebody else's in a day. That simple. So if there's not a simple core to anything, it isn't really understood. So what I teach there is what are the simple explanations of culture? What is the currency of culture? How does it work at a very, very simple level? And that's what I look for. Very, very simple concepts to explain these very, very big things.
Oh, I love this. And how many people listening right now are thinking, oh, can I explain it in just one sentence? So are you working with people who say, oh, I don't have it in one sentence? How do they get to one sentence?
Oh yeah, all the time. Are you asking about describing their business in one sentence, or what are you asking about?
Yeah, their value proposition.
Yeah, I think that the way I define a brand for a business is it's the consistent delivery of a promise. That's how you know you've got a brand. And notice I didn't say that's necessarily a good experience. That brand might be about a bad experience, but it consistently delivers that bad experience, right? So what is the experience you're delivering? And I think that most businesses, certain ones excluded, of course, in certain brands, but they get lost in the love of the product versus the love of the customer, the love of the problem. What are you really serving? What's that riddle? What's that thing that's going to keep you going no matter what? And if you can really boil that down to an essence, the way we dealt with it at Zappos and what I later trained on is this idea of, we're a blank company that happens to sell blank. So with Zappos, a shoe store, a company selling shoes, but it's really a service company, a customer service company that happens to sell shoes. And what we did was train people coming in. So for example, a company that repaired refrigerators, they suddenly got the light on about that. Oh, we repair refrigerators, but that's like the shoes. And they said, we are a business that makes restaurant owners' lives easier. We just happen to repair refrigerators. So if you can think about it this way, it makes you think deeper about the business.
Oh, that's beautiful. So we help somebody win, or we help them decrease friction, and we happen to deliver that product
Yes,
or service on
exactly.
the way. That's beautiful. And what many people struggle in our community right now is to, okay, what can we do to create trust? If technology is so powerful, but how can I trust to work with you or with others? What can we do to increase trust in our team, in our brand, in ourselves?
Yeah. So, first thing to notice with this is that the word trust only comes up when it's missing. You don't talk a lot about trust with people you trust because it's there. So it's showing up when it's missing. So I think what might be interesting for the audience and for us is I'll show you this through example. Can you think of a time, Simon, when you lost trust? And maybe think of a couple in your mind where you lost trust, and if possible, would you share that? You don't have to mention specific names or brands or people, but really like from people to people. Is there a situation that you could describe vaguely, person to person, where you lost trust?
Yes, a, a vendor we were working with closely, and in the weekly meeting, some behaviors happened where I went, my trust is now lost.
Got it. Got it. So I would bet that falls into we won't extrapolate all the details, but if you go through the story in your mind, I bet one of two things happened. One is they said they were going to do something or deliver something and they didn't. The second is you expected them to do something. Maybe they didn't necessarily say it, but you expected them to do something and they didn't do that. Would it fit one or both of those?
Definitely one, yeah.
Right. So we can break down the simplicity of what happened. At its most simple, what happened was there was an agreement that was broken. So in the first scenario I brought up, an agreement's broken. In the second, an agreement is just not made clear. Like I expected blank, but you didn't deliver, but you never said you would, and we didn't have a clear agreement. So trust really comes down to this. One, is there a clear, articulated agreement? And two, is that agreement kept? So people think trust is about like feeling. Do I get a good vibe on them? Do I resonate? Do I believe them, etc. But what it really comes down to when it's broken is that agreement either wasn't explicitly stated and agreed to or wasn't kept. So trust is really just comes down to agreements.
Absolutely. And is there anything we can do so we can clarify expectations, make them explicit?
Sure. Let me give you two extreme examples so the audience can know to find somewhere in between them. On one extreme is when there's very unclear agreement to the point where you and I have literally lied. I'll show you how both you and I have lied. So have you ever done something where you clicked something that said, I have read the terms and I agree to them? Click this button. Have you done
On,
that?
on the iPhone all the time?
Right. Did you read all the terms?
No.
No, right? So that's a form of where agreement is assumed, but it's not actually there. It's not actually made clear. That's one extreme. On the other extreme, when is it abundantly clear? It's when I went skydiving. And instead of clicking, I agree to terms and conditions, instead of even signing a contract, I looked into a video like this and I said, hi, my name is Robert Richman. I realize I could die. I give full, no blame to the company. And that nobody ever would have said he didn't know what he was doing, right? That is absolutely clear, explicit agreement. So now what you have to determine with your contracts, with your engagements, with relationships even, is where on the spectrum are we with that? Where are we, and where do we need to be clear, to make clear agreements? And that's where you start doing things like with Zappos. What we did was when people agreed to live the core values, they had to sign a contract. It wasn't just a poster on a wall. It was a contract that said, I will be fired if I don't uphold these 24/7. And also people held up their hand and swore an oath and said, I swear I will uphold these. And if I don't, I could be fired. And so nobody was surprised when they were fired because there was clear agreement.
Oh, I love this. And so now that you work as a keynote speaker, as a consultant, How do you onboard clients? You have them sign something, you have them sing something, you have them agree or make a video.
It depends on the engagement. What I do is I meet with them and discuss it a lot of what I'm going to deliver. Make that really clear. With the speeches, it's really an art. So and then with the consulting, it's a bold promise I make, and the thing about it, the most help I got from this kind of thing of making bold promises is from the book Creativity Inc. by the founders of Pixar. And what they said was every movie they create, and they knock it out of the park every time, right? They are just crushing and crushing and crushing. But they said every movie starts off with a good idea and then gets so bad they think they have to throw the whole thing away. And oddly enough, that's what I've found with my consulting. Even I make these bold promises. It gets to the point where I think, oh my God, I think I need to literally give the client their money back. I feel so bad. But then it's just still the commitment to it and being flexible and doing whatever it takes to deliver on that result and coming through. But knowing, and sometimes I even now prepare clients for this to say, look, we're going to hit a dip. We're going to hit a point where you think, what the heck are we even doing? So I'm going to prepare you for that. But let's keep the goal in mind. This is how the transformation curve works, and we're going to get there.
And that's an agreement. And if you
Mhm.
say that up front, look, this is the bold goal, this is my commitment, and we and expect we will have a dip together, and that happens like in Pixar. I mean, that can literally be your agreement at the beginning if you're not doing it already explicitly.
Yeah.
That nobody will quit in the dip.
Right.
I love this. Now, the next question is, and thank you for sharing that. So the beginning, and then is the question of onboarding the right people also on the team. Many people right now are thinking about hiring, and I know that you have a ton of experience and great ideas how people can hire. So I want to know all from your experience about how we can find the right people and onboard the right people after one word from our sponsors. What if your business would run well even when you are on vacation? Discover how 1,600 business owners have regained their freedom using the Strategy Sprints blueprints. How they enjoy living their dream and watching their business scale. Get the exact checklists they use to go from stressed to fulfilled using the Strategy Sprints method. Order your copy of Strategy Sprints 12 Ways to Accelerate Growth for an Agile Business on Amazon today. And if you love it, leave us a review. For more information, head over to strategysprints.com. How to find the right people.
Yeah. So this is really the engine of cultures. Is so much you asked what Harvard students ask me about the definition of culture is I ask what it is, and they will say 30 different things. It's the values, it's the beliefs, it's how we do things, it's our principles, it's what people do when no one's looking, and I get like 30 different definitions, and I say, look, they're all right. But in a way, it helps us to define what culture's not than what it is, because where it's not is where the power is. And if you think of any culture, whether it be a sports team, whether it be a company, an organization, it's really defined by two boundaries. One is who do you let in, and two is who do you kick out. That's the real control you have over culture, because once they're in, you can't actually control people, but you're allowed to control who you let in to your group and who you don't, even with customers. So that's where the control factors are. And what I've seen with cultures that do it well is they're not trying to attract everybody. They say, this is what makes us unique. If you like this, 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 and this, you're going to love it here. If you don't, you are going to hate it here. But the cultures that try to say, we're great for everyone and everybody loves it here and it's just amazing and great. I mean, yeah, if you're a huge brand, that can work. But most of us are not. Most of us need to really differentiate. What makes this culture different? What makes us different? Why should you give most of your waking time away from your family to this company? Can you articulate that? Can you make that clear? Can you put that on a web page? Can you put that in a video? If you can't, you're really expecting a lot, and you want you want people who are wanted. You want people who have options. And so if those people have options, what's going to make you the better option? So really thinking about that. How are you putting your brand out in the world? How are you putting your culture out in the world? How are you putting your personality if you're more of a lone worker? And why would it be great to work with you and work on your team? So that's it on the front end. And then how do you really screen people? How do you figure out if they really align? And that's by figuring out what your principles and values are, and really asking inquisitive questions about, do they live up to that? So for example, with Zappos, we had a high service brand. And so asking questions like, tell me about a time when you helped somebody out when you didn't have to. Behavioral questions to determine if they're really you're kind of dating to get married, essentially, with this idea of bringing people in. And you want to we call it slow to hire, quick to fire. Slow to get on board, but if they're not a fit, quick to get them out of there. So we can go into techniques about recruiting, interviewing, onboarding people. I could talk for a day about it, but that's the general principle, is that really creating and displaying a place where people love to work, and having screening tools to make sure you're getting the right people on the door. And then once they're in, how you spend time, again, slowly inducting them in. And one of the key points I bring up about this, I call co-creation. Because what most companies do is they say, this is how it is around here. We do this, we do this, we do this. We believe in this, 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 and this. And I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying do that last. Because you, as the authority, always get to speak last. And if you speak first, you cut off the opportunity for them to speak. So for example, one of the first things on the onboarding at Zappos is saying to all the new people, hey, what do you expect of us? Let's hear your expectations before we say anything, right? And when I onboard somebody onto a new team, my first question with them will be, tell me about your best boss and why. Tell me about your worst boss and why. Tell me about your best work situation. Tell me about what makes you feel safe. Tell me about how you disagree. All these things so I can learn before telling them everything about my group. So it's really co-creating. How do you listen first? Because this is the key principle to keep in mind. Whether you're paying people or not, think of them as volunteers, because you can't literally force people to do anything. You think you can because you pay them and you can threaten to fire them, but it's really kind of a weak motivator. A stronger motivator is if you think of them as somebody who's giving their resource that they can never get back, which is time. You're taking their time, their most valuable resource, right? So how can you treat them like a volunteer that you need to treat well to keep so that they stay there and don't go somewhere else?
Think of everybody as a volunteer. That's so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And you are exploring right now multiple ways, and you have even a website and the program about how we can create wow moments. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I call it surprise and delight. Those are the memories that we have of anything, and how can we create more of that? So for example, one of the things we did at the training when we would train other companies on culture is we would do this icebreaker game, and we would say, okay, what's your name? And tell us what's that impulse buy at the supermarket? What's that treat you love? And they would all go around and share that, and people would kind of smile at the things. But unbeknownst to them was our team was writing them all down and went off and bought them all. And when they came back from break, each of those things were on their desk right there. That's a wow moment, right? So how can we look for moments to make people smile, to make people laugh along the way? And this is assuming, that the first principle holds true, which is you're delivering on your agreements. I remember a friend of mine said, if you just deliver on what you say you will as a consultant or a business, you're going so far above most that are out there. If you just do what you say you're going to do, right? So that's level one. But so this level two assumes that you're doing that. And now level two is, okay, how can we add surprise and delight to the picture?
This is beautiful. And they have it on their desk, literally. And what are some examples that you're working with your clients or with your students, where you say, oh, look, we found a way to delight?
I really like to see when they understand that culture work is not about it's not about motivating people. It's about playing a game. And so think about a game like soccer or football internationally. Um, you don't motivate people to play football. You either like to play it or you don't. And that's why this is really about game design. You want people who want to play the game you're playing. If they do, you don't need to motivate them. And the job is a game, a project is a game, a company is a game. And can you have in-game elements in there? What and this is so basic. Like I said, a game is how do you know you won? You know how many employees are out there and like they're not even sure how well they're doing at their job? Like, how do I know I won my job? How do I know I won the quarter? How do I know I won, beyond sales? How do I know I won? What are the rules? What are the rules? Like with football, don't pick up the ball with your hand. What are the rules for doing the job? How do I know I'm doing well? How are we keeping score? These kind of basic elements of a game. And if you design a game that somebody says, oh my gosh, I'd love to play that game, then you don't have to do all the culture work that's about motivating people. It's more about, okay, how do we play together? How do we wow each other? How do we be of service to each other? How do we make each other smile?
This is so powerful. I had today an experience where somebody in the group said, "Oh, but Simon, I disagree with this thing," and I was like, Do I enter in this conversation now? And then I felt, no, wait a moment, and I stepped one step back, and I said, well, this is the chance now for a player to either play with the ball or to let the ball go. Both is fine. And I decided not to take responsibility for that. And I think this is exactly what you're describing. Everybody's an adult in the B2B space, and they are deciding in each moment, and they're volunteering, and they are motivated to play a game. It's not our job as managers to motivate or to enter that field. Our job, and I like that you call it game design, is to look at the overall structure. Is it clear what we are here to do? Why we care? What the rules are? How we keep score? That's the main job, right? Game design or performance design, culture design.
Yeah, and it comes down to basic things. Like if you're my employee and I say, okay, will you I want to delegate to you this pitch to a new client. There's not enough there. Like delegation is its own art and science of game design, right? Okay, so what is I call it DOD, definition of done. What's the definition of done? How do you know you're done with this? What does it look like? Is it 8 slides? Is it 12 slides? Is it, what is the definition of done? SOS, standard of success. How will I know you successfully did it? I had a boss tell me to do that thing, and I created the most professional, incredible looking design. And he said, oh man, this was overkill. You missed it on this element. You went way overboard, but I didn't get the clear goal of the win. How much feedback do I want? Should you check in with me every day, every week? Should you just go off to the client by yourself without approval? What level of feedback and approval do you need, right? So this, again, is an element of game design where people get, again, disappointed because there wasn't clear agreement about what the delegated task means. And to get the clear agreement, you have to specify what is it? What is the definition of done? Standard of success. When do you want it by? What level of feedback would you like? What level of approval do you need? So that's all getting lost because all this culture work is in communication, and all the communication is going from implied meaning, implied communication to explicit communication and explicit agreements.
I love this. And one question comes up for me. What if explorative tasks where we don't even know what the outcome is and when it is achieved, can we use the same method there, or do we have to adapt the method?
This is something I would call a spike, which is from the world of agile development and Scrum, which is we used a container to determine it. So we say, okay, we're going to focus only from Monday to Wednesday or whatever that is, or these hours, and we're going to focus on this to determine what the clarity is we need. But we're going to time bound it to make sure that we don't just go off the rails with it.
I love it. And what are you currently exploring and learning?
Yeah, trust is one of the elements I'm exploring. I think it's going to come up a lot with this AI thing. It's interesting how I think that the Web 2.0 days have been about attention and engagement, and the neurochemical for that has been dopamine, and people even have dopamine addiction problems, et cetera. And now that we're moving into trust as the big issue, there's actually connections to trust and oxytocin. So I think that oxytocin and trust are going to become buzzwords. I'm not sure how soon, but soon enough. And there's books on it. Paul Zak wrote about this, and he's got an app called Immersion that can test your level of trust through heart rate. You can even put somebody in front of a video or commercial, and through their heart rate, tell how much trust and oxytocin they have for that. So exploring trust, but in these more simple ways, agreements, oxytocin. These are things that I'm exploring. I've got a site that I'm launching called superonpoint.com that's all about surprise and delight, experiences, products, gifts. I love giving gifts. I'm kind of known for them, of how I can understand somebody and give them the perfect gift. And I want to put together the principles of gift giving, because that's how a surprise and delight is a lot through gifts. And so I really like exploring that and finding things that people haven't really heard of, but would make them smile.
Oh, wonderful. Where can we read about it, be part of your journey? Where can we find your work?
Yeah, that site is superonpoint.com, and my main site is robertrichman.com that has my culture work and keynote work and company strategy, company culture sessions, etc. robertrichman.com.
Robert Richman, everybody. Robert, this has been so inspiring. I will re-listen to this tomorrow on my morning run, because there were so many things that got me started. This is beautiful. Thank you so much for
my
sharing.
Pleasure.
And I will make sure to invite you back when your next things are published, so that we can stay in the loop. Thank you, Robert. See you soon.
Thank you.
Avoid trying to do thousands of things that doesn't work. We have 274 templates for your business success. Reach your ambitious goals with one-on-one sprint coach. We double your revenue in 90 days.
What if your business would run well even when you are on vacation? Discover how 1,600 business owners have regained their freedom using the Strategy Sprints blueprints. How they enjoy living their dream and watching their business scale. Get the exact checklists they use to go from stressed to fulfilled using the Strategy Sprints method. Order your copy of Strategy Sprints 12 Ways to Accelerate Growth for an Agile Business on Amazon today. And if you love it, leave us a review. For more information,